So first off, welcome. This is very exciting. There's a lot of people. I see we're 34 already, so I think it's going to be a big one. That's amazing. It's really great to see so many people. I know a lot of names already. I haven't seen a lot of your faces, so that's really cool to see who's behind the username. For me, I've been in our community around 2 years, and I just recently joined N8N as community manager. And I know that it's been quite a while since we had our last user meetup, about 2 years when Harshil was still with us. And a lot of you told me how much you miss doing these events. So we really wanted to restart them and make it more regular and like start seeing you guys again and learn what you want and what you need. But yeah, so we're back. Today I'm gonna be talking with Jan, our founder and fearless leader, about our achievements in the last year. We'll have the community awards. It's a new thing. I'll tell you a bit about that later. And we'll take a peek into the coming year to see what our priorities are going to be and what we'll be focusing on. So the agenda for today is going to be looking at the milestones of the last year, community awards, plans for next year, and then we close off with the Q&A session. Any questions that you have now, please drop them in the chat here in Zoom, and one of our team members will keep an eye on it and collect all the questions, and we'll come back to it later at the end of this meeting. If we don't have time to answer you today, we'll make sure to make a note and get back to you later. Okay. So with that said, I'm gonna give the word to Jan and talk about what we did last year. Okay, take it away, Jan.
Thank you very much, Bart, and also thanks again everybody for joining us again. Great to see some familiar faces and read some familiar names because normally you don't see the faces, as Bart pointed out. Happy to share a little bit things we achieved last year. We actually got quite a lot of stuff done. There was obviously a large focus on AI. It's like this was this huge thing that obviously kind of unfolded everywhere, and it obviously also changed some stuff for us. In the N8N case, like we have kind of this kind of twofold focus around AI. One we call AI for N8N, and the other one N8N for AI. Meaning AI for N8N is what we mean there is kind of AI assisted workflow building. What we launched there last year was this Ask AI functionality in the code node that kind of helps you to do data transformations. You can test it on the cloud. Obviously, we need an OpenAI token, that's why it's only available on cloud, but it makes the life, especially for people that are not as confident in coding as others, much easier. The other thing we launched more towards the end of the year was our N8N for AI functionality, like where you can use N8N to build AI-powered applications. It's like we're actually very excited to what we built there, where we integrated LangChain into N8N. And pretty confident in saying we probably offer right now one of the easiest and best building experiences in the market, I would say, because we were very lucky that we could build on top of everything we obviously built the last years of all the, like we obviously invested quite some resource in building a great UX for our users. And I think all of that paid now off very well into the functionality released. Also important to mention is like we, for example, also just recently released the chat trigger node, which makes it now super easy to build chatbots. So you should definitely check it out. It's also quite, so for the people that actually don't know what I'm talking about, it's quite, probably helpful to check out what our community members did on the next slide. Especially like what Marcel did, like he won our AI LangChain contest last year. Like there, you can find this amazing template here. You can see right on the slide on our webpage. Maybe you can also actually link to it, probably in the YouTube comments or here in the comments. And also what Derek did regarding our Telegram chatbot template. And actually, he did not just create a great template, he also created a whole YouTube video series around it as well. So definitely check it out. Another thing we kind of re-released last year again was our Creator Hub. It's like actually from the first day, people were able to share workflows, like N8N workflows with the community. at some point it kind of did fall a little bit in disarray, and we actually took it down more or less half. But now we really start to double down it again. We created a lot more templates. Also with the help of the community, we really try to make sure they're as helpful as possible and as well documented as possible. It's also like much easier now that we finally allow people to have like the sticky notes. I think like we really have now created a lot of great templates, and we're definitely going to create a lot of them this year as well. So it's, for new people, also for people that already use end-to-end for quite a while, it's definitely worth checking out all the great templates that have been created there, because it really makes it super easy to get started. And also like with some functionality we just created around making it easier to use the existing credentials and update all the nodes there. It really improved the experience a lot. Also important to mention is like we also just relaunching our affiliate program. Actually, we had it, but we are kind of improving the experience there and changing to a new vendor that is more dependable and better. Like all people that can create templates, they can link, they can use the affiliate link to the templates to also actually earn money with it. And also some people also having some quite great experience there, and I think are starting to earn money there as well. So on the other side, what we also focused a lot last year is on the enterprise side. As you can see, actually, no, we start with the general improvements first, sorry. Yeah, like general improvements was like a big milestone was obviously our 1.0 release. It's like where we used the chance to make some breaking changes that we thought are important for the future of end-to-end, to make sure we have this stable product where people know what they can expect, like where we could add semantic versioning, could deprecate things that didn't make sense anymore. We also added a lot of other functionality that is, for example, makes it now much easier to rerun past executions. Other important functionality that has been requested a lot the last years from the community have been like error outputs. You can now very easily route all the items that fail on a separate output. You can find in the settings. Workflow history, it is also available on cloud, where you can very easily roll back to past versions of the workflow. We kind of improved, added like this kind of context menu for the nodes, where you can also very clearly see like the keyboard shortcuts. We added dark mode, which was one of the most requested features probably by our users. And also we added a 2FA, which is obviously very important for security and securing end-to-end, as we obviously store a lot of sensitive information, and their security is very important there. As just mentioned before, it's like on the enterprise side, we invested quite some resources there. Meaning like important ones is again single sign-on, especially important for organizations, to make sure that only the right people have access, and to make it very easy to get access to end-to-end. Log streaming, we can make sure the logs actually do not just end up somewhere on your server. They actually get streamed somewhere where you can easily monitor them. Version history, again, as mentioned before, but there's actually more around. Yeah, actually, there you get the same functionality, but you can kind of go back further. You also invested more resources regarding collaboration. And you, for example, also can see when other people work at the same time in a workflow as you're working on it. You're investing also quite some more resources this year as well. And also another important one is different environments where you can have different end deployments. You can, historically, it was always a problem that if you by accident press save, your workflow goes directly in production, and this obviously most time not what you want. Now you're able to have different end-to-end instances, one for staging, for example, or dev, and another one for production. You can test everything in one instance and then push it very easily via Git to this production instance as well. Other important changes have been around the nodes. On the next slide, we tried to overhaul more or less all the core nodes. They're obviously the most used nodes inside of end-to-end. That includes nodes like the HTTP request node, the set node, the if node, split in batches, which is now the loop node, switch node, where we can, for example, also have now as many outputs as you want. All the file nodes, we split up the list item node, date and time, and database nodes like Postgres and MySQL. All of them have been improved, and there are still some other ones we have in the pipeline for this year as well. We added a form trigger node, which makes it super easy to get information from users in, also now in the wait node available, so you can have this human in the loop. We added pagination. It was honestly previously really a pain to paginate with n unless you had like this built-in nodes. So now that's a huge improvement. They made it much simpler. And also a very much requested feature was adding Python support to the code node, which has been released as well. And I guess that was it.
That was that, Jan. Thank you. Guys, as I said before, if you have any questions for Jan or for me, leave them in the chat and we'll get back to it at the end of this meeting. I think, Jan, you just mentioned that sometimes things are a pain to use. And one of the things I really like is that as a company, we use N8N a lot internally, right? And so if you feel the pain of something, we feel it as well. And we typically are very motivated to fix those things quickly if we can. Yeah. Right, so for the community awards, this is a new thing, so it needs a little bit of explanation, I think, why we do this. Obviously, we have a big community. It's growing a lot every year. And what I've seen inside N8N is that it's not just a thing we do, but it's a thing we live and breathe. And the community is really part of the company's DNA. And everywhere I look, people are aware of what's going on the forum, what's going on social media, what you guys are building, etc. People know community members by name, and they can tell stories about their journey so far. And I think that is really powerful. And it also shows me that it's something that we need to celebrate a bit more. We need to highlight the contributions that you guys make. And so for this year, what we've done is we have looked at 4 different categories of content, of contributions that were made. And we handpicked community members in each of them based on how they helped us last year. And unfortunately, this funny video is just hidden, so I'm just going to move it because I like it so much. Right, so we're going to be looking at developers who contributed community nodes that you can use in your own projects. We're looking at template creators that are part of the new Creator Hub that Jan mentioned earlier. We identified promoters who helped get the word out on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And finally, at supporters, people who are helping other users on our forums. And the first category, before I say that, I always forget. The winners, like the people that I mentioned here, they will all receive a fancy forum badge, so you get eternal fame, but you also get a cool t-shirt, and we made these little booklets for you guys. We call them notebooks, not notebooks, obviously. And so you'll all receive one of these, and I'll contact all of you early next week with information on how to get your prizes as soon as possible. So without further ado, the node builders for this year. I would like to congratulate Valentina Lilova and Bram Knuver, I hope, for their work. Valentina works for a German agency called Digital Boss, and she has shared over 17 nodes this year. Some of the highlights that I looked at were a node to work directly with Oracle databases, which was not part of our offering yet, and one to connect with Google Firebase to send notifications, which is great because that allows you to send free notifications on the internet. Bram is an independent consultant from the Netherlands. And aside from consulting, he is basically everywhere in our community. So I cannot open the forum or Discord without running into Bram. So that's really awesome. And Bram contributed a couple of interesting packages like Moneybird and Exact, which are very well-known financial apps here in the Netherlands, at least, as well as a PGP encryption node as well. So Valentina and Bram, I don't know if you are around, feel free to unmute and say hi for a second. No?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, John.
Sorry, I had to find the button.
That's okay. It's great that you're here. Thank you. Okay, then next category is the template creators. And one caveat here, as Jan mentioned, we have just properly restarted this, so we didn't have a ton of data to work with, but two people definitely stood out from the crowd. They are, and I'm going to butcher this name, Anshka, Hans, we just call him, and Lucas Perret. Nushka created an amazing Telegram bot to handle a ticketing system, live chat, and user management. It does everything. It's quite wild. If you follow that link, you'll find it. And they also contributed a library of workflows to allow you to work with Cloudflare key value databases. So you have a very easy way to store simple bits of data for your workflows. Lucas is more on the business side. He did, for example, a script that monitors business reviews, so it can keep an eye on certain web pages and alert you when something is up. And he also offers a cheap way of collecting Google Maps data using an external API. So that was an interesting application, I thought. Nashka and Lucas, are you around by any chance? No? Well, we'll check in with you guys later. Then for our advocates, I have found, Lucas is on this again, he does multiple things. I had the pleasure of working with Oscar over the last couple of weeks when I was collecting tutorials. He creates really well-produced and slick short tutorials about working with N8N. And I found that I really enjoyed viewing them. Oscar also helped beta test our new advanced AI nodes, and he published a review of them on the day that we launched them. And those things have been immensely helpful for us. When I talk about tutorials, that's something I'll come back to later as well. We have a couple of plans in the pipeline for that, and Oscar has been helping me with it as well. Lucas is a growth manager, and as such, he writes, he knows how to promote stuff, and he does a really good job on LinkedIn. He has a large follower base, and he's been building workflows based on sales ops and revenue ops use cases. And so, for example, he's doing data enrichment, data scraping, etc. He also posted several product comparisons and use cases that really helped us reach a larger audience in his segment. So that was amazing. And then there's Maxime Poulsen. He likes to call himself a growth and automation nerd. I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people here, so that's great. And Maxime likes to post on no-code custom AI work, and he introduced a lot of people to the possibilities of N8N and LangChain, and that was fantastic for us as well. So thanks, guys. This was really cool. If any of you is around, please unmute and say hi to us.
Oh, yeah, so I'm here.
Nice.
So yeah, thank you very much for featuring me. It's really great, to work with N8N community. I personally believe the N8N community is the best in the world. So I really hope to create new tutorials, and yeah, see you all soon on my YouTube channel.
Thanks, Oscar. Really great to see you, man. Okay, and then I am moving to the supporters category. Two people in this category. So I have Ihor and Nico. Ihor is from Canada, and I see him on the forum almost every day. And the same is true for Nico. And the thing is, these two gentlemen, they often beat our own support champion, John, to answering questions. And I think that's not a small thing to do. Like, John is very, very active. So if you answer something before him, that is amazing. I had the pleasure of Ihor answering some of my own questions, so that was really cool. Nico is also offering N8N consultant and mentoring. N8N mentoring sounds like people need some mental help using it. So I'm really curious what that means. But yeah, guys, your help is amazing, and it really helps other users get support a lot faster as well. So that is super cool. If any of you is around here, please unmute and say hi. No? Okay. Well, then to recap, and again, my thing is over it. To recap, thanks a lot for everyone. I'll be in touch with you early next week. We're still tweaking the booklet a little bit, etc. And I'll send you an email with a voucher so you can get your hands on our prizes. And with that out of the way, we are at our next agenda point, which is the plans for 2024. And this is something that Jan and I are going to tackle together, because we're going to be looking at general things and then at community things. So Jan, you can start.
Cool. Yeah, first also I would say thank you to all the people that won. I think you already make a really huge difference. It's really great to see how much time you all invest there to help NNN and especially also the community. So thanks a lot. It's really, really great and appreciated. But to get to the 2024 plans, like last year, we have seen a lot of growth, like both in adoption, but also like regarding like adoption in the sense of like how many organizations are using us, or also in the cloud. So also the revenues means we made a big step regarding sustainability, and so obviously making sure that NNN stays around long term, and so we can continuously put on like a lot of resources into the product and provide hopefully amazing support, which is apparently sometimes not even needed because we have so great community members that help out there. But obviously we always want to make sure there is enough people there to help out when our community doesn't have time. And obviously that allows us, gives us a little bit more flexibility, and now we can finally start to grow again. Like we have planned to grow the team by 50% this year. And so obviously it allows us to put even more resources again in product support and in community. And as we obviously always love to hire from the community, like one of the first people we actually hired was Ricardo, who was like, I think he created like 60 notes by himself before he got hired, just for fun. And then John, who was similar to the people we just mentioned now, his main goal was to answer fast in our community people and obviously now Bart. So please make sure to look through our drop page and apply if there's something that fits your interest. Another thing that's important to mention is like, we definitely feel the pain, and actually it pains me to say, it's like recently there have been like the quality suffered in some cases. I think there's like some bugs creeped up, and we're not as fast as we wanted to in getting rid of them. It means like if you obviously create a lot of new things, that they introduce new bugs, and also other old things that had still bugs, they are there at the same time. And I think we definitely have to step up our game in improving the quality again there and making sure everybody has a great experience there. Also around reliability. So we're going to put a lot of resources this year in making sure NNN, like, it doesn't have bugs, it is reliable, and people have the best experience possible by also improving their usability a lot. There's going to be a big focus, especially on this in the first quarter, but probably over the whole year, because I think it's something that's going to be very important long term. Another big thing is obviously still AI, as I mentioned before. Like, it's going to be a bigger and bigger focus area for us. We simply see a huge opportunity generally, especially also for NNN. That's where we are also going to double down on both things again, for NNN, AI for NNN, and NNN for AI. So we have planned on the AI for NNN side, is like we add things like AI co-pilot functionality, AI support with errors. So meaning, like if you can see an error message, for example, from an API returns an error, like we can directly help people and display them exactly what is probably wrong and how they can fix it. We want to make it possible that AI autofills and creates HTTP request nodes. So you can just say create a lead in, I don't know, tool X, and then it will figure everything out that's necessary and create a node, and then it saves people to do the research in the API docs themselves, and just then it generally speeds up the development process. On the other side, for NNN for AI, like there we're gonna overhaul the OpenAI node, which is actually by now one of the most used nodes in NNN. And generally, like we're gonna improve, continuously put a lot of resources in our AI, like functionality that we built with LangChain to improve the general experience, adding more support for more services, and just trying to stay up to date and keep on innovating in that area because it's moving so fast. And we're gonna hire a dedicated team around that make sure we can stay up to date there and gonna become one of the hopefully driving forces in that area. And now over to Bart for the community.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah. So yeah, on the topic of Hangouts, as I mentioned, we want to make sure this is going to be a recurring thing. So we're aiming at having an Hangout at the end of every month from now on. And this was a bit of a special one because we did the review, etc. But in coming Hangouts, we want to involve the community more as well. So as we did in the past, we'll be sure to invite speakers from the community. We'll invite other team members to speak about what they're working on inside N8N. We'll try to include things like tutorials, etc. So if you are interested in helping out with that, like being part of these presentations, just let me know. I'll share my email address at the end of this Hangout, so you can just reach out to me directly, and we'll get you set up to work with us. Also, we realized we don't have a great way of sharing any news with you guys. So unless you are very closely watching the forum or our blog, you might miss interesting stuff. So we're bringing a community newsletter to you, and we're currently working on designing that and setting up the system behind it. So hopefully within 1 or 2 months we'll be able to share that with you as well. And then another thing that I keep hearing all the time is how much people love codeathons or hackathons, or however you want to call them. And I think this is something that we could do more frequently. It generates a lot of fun, a lot of useful results, a lot of great interactions between us and you as well. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely interested in. Other than that, if there's anything you think this community is missing or something you would like to see more of, just let me know. I may not be able to do it right away, but I'm definitely interested in hearing what you would love to see more of or help with, right? If you're like volunteering, I'm all ears. So yeah, I think that is it for us, Jan, and it's time to head over to the Q&A section, which is the more boring slide of them because there's nothing on it. This is the one that you guys are going to fill. And so I'm going to take a look at the notes here to see what people asked. Lucas Peyrin says, I'm building an AI workflow builder. Is that what you worked on, or more the code aspects?
Sorry, what was it?
He says, I'm building an AI workflow builder.
Okay.
Is that what you worked on, or more the code aspects?
Like we actually work on both.
Yeah.
If it is like correctly, like we have, like I said, we have this 2 different areas where sometimes for some we use AI to, for example, help people to build workflows, and in the long term allow people have planned that you can just enter some prompt and it builds out at least part of the workflow, the whole workflow for you. Is that what you mean?
That's how I read it. Yeah. So right now we have Ask an AI only in the code node, but not yet for generating workflows, right?
Yeah.
Lucas,
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what you meant? Okay. Maybe he can't speak right now.
Yeah, he said yes on the chat.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And can you elaborate a little bit on those plans, Jan? Is that the...
Yeah. I said we will probably start with something like with, for example, what you have in GitHub is like they have like this kind of Copilot functionality where it doesn't write out a whole program for you. It kind of gives you the next steps. And that's where we also, it's a big opportunity for N8N, where it's like says like we created node X, and then there's like probably you want to create node Y. If you probably want to connect it in a certain way, and that can just speed up the process. We're still not sure how helpful this N8N builds the whole workflow for you gonna be, for the simple reason that N8N is like it's easier for something like where we have like workflow tools that connect A to B, because then you can very easily figure out what's happening. And people build very complex workflows that are very large. It's the same, like, again, if AI writes code for you, then you have to spend a lot of time figuring out like, what did the AI create here? Does it actually do what I wanted to do? Is like reading code that somebody else wrote for you. And it's the same if the AI will create a huge workflow, because then you have to figure out like, how is it connected? How does it work? And that is and then you don't like figuring that stuff out is sometimes easier if you just build it yourself. That's why we think like probably a step-by-step process is probably more helpful for people than the whole building.
That makes sense. I have trouble reading my own workflow sometimes, so I can only imagine if an AI generates it.
Yeah, I think it's just creating a huge 30-node workflow and then just figuring that stuff out is really, really hard. And that's why I think if you step by step, I can definitely see a lot more value there.
Yeah. That's what I really like when I look at the Creator Hub on how people build, like how professionals build their workflows, how they use a lot of sticky notes to like limit or document what parts of the workflow are doing.
Exactly. But that's, I think, the next thing is like if you take a workflow that somebody built, you know that the person probably thought it through. Again, they documented it, they thought about edge cases. When the AI is creating something like that's a huge black box, and probably the AI will not have thought about the edge cases because it's not there yet. And that's why, I think it's a very different experience, templates between AI building it.
All right, thanks. Lucas has a follow-up question. He says, is the AI for N8N in the code node coming to be available in self-hosted plans, obviously using your own API key?
I think it should already be available. I think it's just probably not properly documented. So like, I think it was asked in the forum before. I hope we properly answered the question. If not, please send it to us that we probably document how it's possible. But in the end, like the functionality is normally in the code like everything else. It's not behind a paid flag. It's available for everybody. It just has to be configured correctly. So I'm not sure what has to be enabled to set it. Maybe it's just an environment variable where you can define the OpenAI node, the OpenAI token. But I think it shouldn't be very complicated. So it should be available for everybody if we know how. And I hope we have it documented somewhere.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, we'll make a note to look into that as well. Okay, next question is by Sarunas, and they ask, really missing, hang on, let me first read this because it's a long one. Really missing OpenAI updates to use it in the full latest scope, uploading documents and stuff without making any extra HTTP requests with OpenAI API. But all other AI LangChain stuff just saves millions of hours of work. Huge thanks. So I think you already referred to us needing to do more work on the OpenAI node, right?
Yeah, and I get the OpenAI node we have right now is the one I created at some point as it came out. It's definitely probably not the most perfect node, especially with all the stuff we learned recently. That's why we're currently doing relaunching it and making updates to it, because it's, again, by now it's one of the most important nodes we have. Definitely going to improve further, and hopefully new functionality will be added as well if there's currently something important missing.
All right, thanks. Simon, aka Shirobachi, asks, how often do you plan to make community meetups from now on? Well, I already answered that, like every month, if all goes well. So we should be back at the end of the month, early March. Askan, will the slides presented today be made public? Yeah, I have no problem with that. So I will not be able to publish the video before the weekend, but I'll do it on Monday, and I'll put a post on the forum and add the slides to that as well, so you can read everything there at your leisure. A follow-up question from Lucas, and he asks, I have nearly finished creating a workflow magic positioning API. Would that be useful, or is it planned?
Magic positioning,
what is
like position the nodes, and I'm not sure understand.
Like cleaning up the layout, Lucas, can you comment on that?
Yes, finally I can speak a bit.
Hey.
Magic positioning would be, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Make does. Well, it's obviously less good than N8N. I love it so much. But they have this one little thing that was so cool, is a button where you click it and it just positions the whole workflow. But in N8N there's loops and stuff, so I did it myself. I have a bit of JavaScript to write still, but I'm not sure if you've worked on it or anything.
No, we definitely didn't work on it. I think definitely would be helpful. Yeah, I think it has been mentioned in the past a few times.
I plan to share it. Yeah, it needs to be done, but it works for the LangChain, for straight lines, but it has some problems with multiple connections everywhere. So
I
So
think
they-
it's not a simple problem to fix. Yeah, I think
exactly. I
Yeah.
thought about it for 2 weeks nonstop and just worked hardcore.
Oh,
But
really
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, please share. Yeah,
it's coming out. Need some
Thanks a
more.
lot.
In the case of
Cool.
Make, it's an easier problem, right? Because everything is
Yes,
basically a
it's straight
tree.
line.
It's, yeah,
Mm.
very cool. I do miss that function, so that's a good call. Yeah. All right, and Lucas, you had one more question, so stay on the line if you want. A cool OpenAI functionality would be to insert messages in a variable instead of having fixed roles that need to be set in the interface manually. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, it wasn't a question. It was more like a request. I'm planning to create a function request, a functionality request, but that was more a comment, because in the OpenAI node, you need to set, like, for example, the system prompt, and then tell it, take this variable. But I have I need to do some weird tricks and go through the API, the API HTTP node instead, because I sometimes need to put those messages in a different order or with new roles, more messages, etc.
Could you please post it to the forum as a feature request and mark it as also with OpenAI? Can that
It's an open tab.
Ah.
I'm threading it right
Okay,
now.
perfect. Thanks. Yeah, because like I said, when we now redo that note, it would definitely be good if we can consider
Oh,
that.
okay, for sure.
Thank you.
Good timing then. Yeah. All right. Last question that I see here by Russian Yanshin. He asks, would it be a good idea to create a guide on how to create nodes for N8N? Some YouTube series would be very helpful. I do think we have material for that, but maybe we can.
Yeah, I think it's documented in the docs. We also have a YouTube video, but the YouTube video is very, very old. And also there are currently 2 ways to create a node. Like you can use the old, like a programmatic style. Like you can use either you can write code or like we have our kind of this JSON style to do it. And like for the JSON side, I think there's no YouTube video yet. And I'm not sure how it looks like regarding docs. I think it's documented. I'm not sure how deeply. Again, like the video we have for it is probably two years old, something like that. So I agree that it's probably something where we should put again more resources in, as it's just so helpful, especially as we now want that more and more community members obviously create more nodes. Better documentation is always helpful, and it's also something where we want to put more resources in. Like as right now we have Deb, and she's amazing, and she's taking care about the docs by herself, and it's also something where we want to put more resources behind this year to hire somebody else to get more support there and make the docs even better. This will hopefully enable us to also improve the docs for node development as well.
It's a hard problem because the product changes so fast. We have so many things to maintain. It's
That's especially the problem with videos always. Yeah, like you create a video and it's great,
videos
and
especially. Yeah,
wait 2 weeks and then it's not so great anymore. Yeah, it causes at some point more problems than it's helping because it's just confusing people.
All right, thanks. Next question is kind of related. It's by B, and they ask, was the course level 2 improved lately? I remember it being unclear. Actually, that's on my plate now, so I'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks. If you have anything that is like specific, if you have any specific questions, do reach out to me and let me know, and I'll make sure we solve that real soon as well. My email address will be on the next slide, so I can answer that.
And as also important to mention, we want to create much more content also on the video side. Like I think education is very important, especially like a product like ours. I think obviously being very powerful is great, but also doesn't make it always the easiest product to use. Like we can try obviously very hard, but creating something easy is not easy. It's a very hard problem, and that's why especially documentation is very important. And again, videos is another thing. So we definitely more tutorials, more videos, better documentation is definitely something we want to invest more resources on.
All right. With that, we are done with the Q&A. I did notice Lucas Perret just joined, and Lucas, we mentioned you. I'm going to scroll back in our slides just for a second. So you were winner in not 1 but 2 categories of our community awards. We are recognizing you as one of our most active template creators. and we talked about a few of your projects there. And we also recognized you as one of our most active promoters or advocates. And we mentioned the work that you're doing. So if you want, you can unmute and say a couple of words. We have a couple of cool prizes for you, like our little notebook that will be coming your way soon. And we're really happy with your help. Maybe they can't speak now. With the questions out of the way, that's a wrap. That's all we have to say for now. After this slide, I'll stop screen sharing and we can all be on screen and just like a bit of a social chat if you guys want. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad we're going to be doing this more often, and I'm very happy that you joined us today. If you need to email me, you can contact me at bart@n8n.io, or I'll be on the forum as well as Bart V, so you can send me a DM there if you like.